Hey everybody, Matt here from Matt's Movies, Music and More, and my special guest Andrew, welcoming you to this week's episode of What Did You Think? So if you saw our last episode on What Did You Think, you'll know that we covered the sci-fi genre, which we were talking about the 1999 movie celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, The Matrix.
It's astonishing that we're old enough now to look back on movies and go, oh yeah, that came out when we were young.
It feels like just yesterday in some of our cases that with these movies that they just feel like they came out so quickly and not long ago.
Not to me, it doesn't.
So
be careful, kids, it'll happen to you one day. You'll be talking about Avengers Endgame as this cult classic, mark my words.
So to replace The Matrix in the Twister Spinner for the next sci-fi spin or whatever when it comes up, is we've put in there another anniversary title, the 1984 movie The Last Starfighter. So hopefully that will come up soon because I really like that movie.
Okay.
So on to today's movie. So today's movie comes from the horror genre. To replace this film in horror for the next spin, it's another anniversary one, I'm afraid. I'm so sorry.
Continue.
Yeah. We have put in there a movie that celebrates its 40th anniversary from 1979, and that is Zombie. Or Zombie Flesh Eaters. Or Zombie 2. Directed by Lucio Fulci.
Zombie 2?
Long story, we'll tell you briefly that it was released in Italy as Zombie 2 as a potential cash grab to Dawn of the Dead, which was released a year before, but in Italy it was released as Zombie.
This is going to be a wild ride
when
we get to that.
And given that it's the 40th anniversary this year, and with Halloween not too far around the corner, I'm hoping that it will come up around that sort of time, fingers crossed.
That would be correct.
Yes. So on to today's episode. So today's episode, we are talking about the 1994 horror movie from horror, BRAINSCAN, which is directed by John Flynn, and it stars Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and T Ryder Smith as the trickster. Yes. So, BRAINSCAN. Had you seen it before I suggested it?
Absolutely not.
Really? That surprises me because this movie's whole premise and marketability about it was about mixing video games in movies and in real life and stuff like that, and having a scenario like that.
I'm sure I would have been doing other things at the time and it would have flown under the radar or something.
Fair enough.
Or maybe I would have still been prudish about it. I'm too young to watch horror movies.
Yeah, well, I used to watch a lot of horror movies at that sort of age. So,
I remember.
Yes. So let's get on to the plot of BRAINSCAN.
Right. So Edward Furlong.
Yeah, Edward Furlong.
Right. John Connor is a lonely boy who lives. He basically spends all his time in his bedroom. I think it's his. Is his mother or some kind of caretaker or guardian? Because all you need to know is that he spends all his time in his bedroom and he goes to and from school on his own. So parents are almost a non-issue in this case. But he's very techno knowledgeable. He's got a video phone. He's got computers. He's really into horror movies and video games. With the horror movies, he's trying to run a horror movie club at school, which the principal is quick to say that you can't have that. This is disgusting, traumatic, corruptive filth, and if you're going to show any movies in my classrooms outside school hours, I want you to bring them in to me for approval first. But with video games, he's got a kindred spirit, a best friend, a misfit like him called Kyle, who rings him up one day to say, hey dude, I've got this, there's this new game coming out that's like totally radical and awesome, like it's called BRAINSCAN. It's totally immersive, interactive video game experience. There's this advert and you call up for it and you get the discs through the mail, dude. You gotta try it, man. It's literally... It's 1994. So John Connor does order the game and puts the disc in and watches. It seems to be these flashing images. That's all it seems to be. But then it cuts to first person walking towards a stranger's house. Looks very similar to a house that's in his neighbourhood. And he hears this voice saying, go in through the gate and go upstairs, get the knife. And there's a man sleeping in the bed, and the voice is telling him, do it, and stabs the man, and the voice says, get a trophy. So he cuts the foot off and gets the foot with the tattoo in it. And then John Connor wakes up. I'm going to stop that now. His
name's Michael.
His name's Michael, but come on, man. Edward Furlong.
Yes.
We'll probably get into that, but Michael wakes up and thinks that was a bit weird. But then the news the very next morning says local man is horribly, bloodily murdered in his bed, and John and Michael.
Yes,
opens his fridge and sees a severed foot with a tattoo on it. So the game is real. It's implanting subliminal messages in his head to do these things, and two things happen after this. Firstly, Detective Inspector Skeletor arrives on the scene. And so you've got your Detective Inspector going round trying to look for something and visiting. I hear you're an isolated boy, Michael. People at school call you a weirdo and threatening, and you know. And Michael starts, sooner or later the police are going to find out who did it. But secondly, a strange figure appears in his bedroom. This deformed, freakish, clownish figure called the Trickster says that he appears, I am part of the game, only you can see me, and the game is not over, Michael. There are witnesses, and and despite Michael's protests about I'm not doing anything else, I'm not going to kill again. Oh, you will kill again, Michael. You need to kill again, or it's game over.
That's pretty much the plot, pretty much. Although we didn't mention about some of the other characters in the film, but we'll get into that, because the long story is I want to get into regarding how dated this movie does feel, because it feels like a very early 90s kind of, I wouldn't say that Michael is goth, but he's kind of that sort of grunge kind of kid, sort of would have probably been listening to Nirvana at the time and stuff like that. So could you see a lot of that sort of dress code that he and his friends have, sort of thing?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Personally, I couldn't relate to that because back in the day I didn't dress like that or really listen to that sort of music, but I always thought Michael was cool because he liked horror movies and video games, which I did too. So, and the fact that he lives in his house on his own pretty much because his dad's working always, and his mother died when he was young in a car accident, and the house next door, which is because it's kind of like a big house. There's another house that's sort of next door.
It's a very extravagant neighbourhood.
Yeah, and you've got the next door neighbour who's got the young daughter who's called Kimberly. She's played by Amy Hargreaves, and he kind of has a thing for her, such as in his bedroom he's got like a telescope spying on her and watching her get undressed and stuff like that, which kind of seems a bit creepy.
It seems creepy, but then something comes up in the movie that justifies this.
Yes.
Which felt a bit, I don't want to get too far ahead or go into spoilers, but that felt like, you can't justify, he's a teenage boy, I get it, and you need to resolve this terrible situation that you're in currently very quickly, but to do a, oh, this is happening as well. It's like, I know it's a horror movie. It's cheesy. It's fiction, but What are the chances of that happening in real life?
Yeah. What do you think of the fact that it's done on like CD-ROM? So this would have been early PC kind of era. We grew up with game cartridges with Mega Drive and Nintendo and all that.
Yeah.
So to see a CD game,
I had a friend who had an Amiga, so I was dimly aware of CD technology, but it really did not catch on until like a couple of years after this movie.
yeah, but at the time it did seem kind of cool, very futuristic.
This is as I say right off here, this is a 90s movie with a very 90s sensibility about how computers and technology works, about what is cool, how computers work, and how this is the height of technological advancement that John Connor has in his bedroom. I'm not going to stop saying that, because that's pretty much what he's known for, and I couldn't stop thinking of that watching this. But I will say, to this movie's credit, I will say at least he did sell the trauma and the panic and the escalating horror of the situation that he finds himself in.
Yeah, well, I suppose let's go on to the cast then with Edward Furlong, which is that obviously Edward Furlong, as you keep pointing out, his most famous role is obviously as John Connor in Terminator 2, which came out in 91.
Maybe he'll be in the new Terminator film that's coming out next month, or at the time of recording this. The new Terminator 6 that everybody's looking forward to. You can understand I'm being sarcastic, right? I hope I wasn't that too subtle.
So, I mean, when he did that, I mean, there was this whole boom of young child actors who were becoming big in the early 90s, like Macaulay Culkin and the kid Austin O'Brien from Last Action Hero, and also the lead kid from the Problem Child movies. Their careers sort of went down the pan, whereas Edward Furlong was becoming more of a bigger name, and he had done the Pet Sematary sequel, Pet Sematary 2, and then he did BrainScan, and then he gone on to do other things like Detroit Rock City and American History X, which actually is on our Twisted Spinner, hopefully coming up at some point.
Okay.
But his career's really gone downhill now. I know he's had drug problems and domestic violence and whatever, but we want to talk about him in a good light, and that is, in this movie, I really like the character. Granted, yes, he's creepy, he's a bit of a dick to his friend Kyle, but I like the character. From what I read about the production of this movie, the director John Flynn, who I don't really know much about his directorial background, but I read apparently he said that when working with Edward Furlong, that in his words, he was a pain in the arse to work with. So could you imagine that? That Edward Furlong would be a pain in the arse to work with?
Well, I could possibly imagine I'm the kid from Terminator 2, I can do whatever I want.
Maybe that's probably the thing, yeah. But what about Frank Langella, who, as you said, Skeletor from the 80s Master Universe
I know,
movie.
and I will say, I know Frank Langella's done a whole bunch of other things. He's a distinguished actor. He was Richard Nixon. It's just funny. Sorry to say Skeletor, but I think he's said that that's the most entertaining role he's ever done. So I'm not denigrating him or anything. He's proud of that. He did his job as the detective, who's the authority, the law, and the I don't want to say ever-present threat, because there's another character in this movie that's the ever-present threat. I want he's coming closer. He's going, sooner or later he's going to close in on what Michael's done.
Yeah, because he knows. He has
that quiet sincerity to him.
But he knows that Michael is behind this.
Yeah.
But obviously we want to go on to T Ryder Smith, who is an actor who I don't really, again, know much about, but he plays this character, the Trickster. Now, many things I've read about the Trickster, and given that this movie was not produced by one of the big horror movie studios or anything like that. But I heard rumours that apparently they wanted this character to be sort of a franchise character. Could you see that?
I could. This is Freddy Krueger.
That's what they were saying in a lot of the stuff I read about
I could totally see him being informed by Freddy Krueger, and there are going to be BrainScan sequels, and the trickster is going to be the monster, the funny quipping killer monster character is going to be in all the BrainScan sequels that follow this. You could feel free to correct me, but I don't think there are any BrainScan sequels. No, so obviously that shows you how well that worked.
Yeah, so the movie clearly bombed, as you're saying here, but I mean, the trickster doesn't actually kill anyone in this movie.
No, he's there to go, you must kill Michael, or you must do this thing, Michael. Ooh, pardon me if I eat something from your fridge, Michael, and nothing can hurt me except country and western music.
Yeah. That's interesting. I want to talk about that briefly. Which is
I'm bullshit. I'm not going to do anything more. Oh, yes, you are, Michael. I'm not going to kill. Oh, yes, you are, Michael. That's all his scenes, basically.
Yeah. I want to talk about the music, actually, because the music's very minimal, isn't it, for a horror movie? It's got that sort of, like, Friday the 13th kind of...
electronic
synth
pop.
Done by George S. Clinton, and it's like this sort of bom, 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 bom. It's just that whole motif, the whole movie, pretty much. But I'll give you a little factoid about this movie, which you might find interesting. One of the writers of this movie was a guy called Andrew Kevin Walker. Now, the name might not ring a bell to you, but do you know that he won an Oscar a few years later for his screenplay for the movie Seven?
That makes sense with he obviously has a thing for serial killers, and B, well, I'm glad he moved on up in the world and did something better after this.
He also did 8mm as well, and a few other thrillers and stuff.
That just shows you wherever you start from, you can climb up the ladder at some point. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah. So I mean, BrainScan is one of those movies that I think its audience was pretty much decided. It was going to be a Saturday night video rental aimed at kids, I'd say, probably in America. You know, this. I doubt would this have been a PG-13? Do you think in America, given that there's not really a lot of gore in it or anything like that, apart from the first murder? It's the only scene where there's any real gore when he cuts the foot off.
I could see that, but
there's not much in regarding swearing, and if there is, there's just like the odd fuck here and there. But I know in the UK when it was released, it was a 15.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah. But I mean, in America, clearly this would have been one of those videos that the kids would have gone out with their parents and gone to the video rental store and go, I want to see this, and then they get it and they're probably disappointed, no doubt. But I like the film. That's why I suggested it for the channel. And I actually thought that Andrew wouldn't have seen it, and given that he likes video games as well, I mean, a movie that came to mind when I thought of BrainScan, which I've never seen, always wanted to. Have you heard of a film that came out in the 2000s called Stay Alive?
No.
No? It's got the kid from Malcolm in the Middle, Frankie Muniz, and I think it's about that they play a video game in which if they die in the game, they die in real life kind of thing. Yeah. So again, it's sort of this sort of idea, I guess. But you don't see that happen too often nowadays, do you? Video game movies in which, you know, the killer, if you die in the game, you die in real life.
There was a Black Mirror episode recently, but that's about it.
Okay. But overall, what did you think of this movie anyways?
I'm not going to rag on this movie unnecessarily. It has a good concept or premise. Edward Furlong, at least for all my John Connor jokes, does sell the concept, and the initial murder, first person with a voice going do it, is actually quite creepy and effective. But apart from that, I am also not going to pretend that it's anything more than a cheesy, get some beer and pizza and have a good laugh. As you say, Saturday evening, cheesy horror movie, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, a party movie with your mates or whatever. You know, you have a few beers, have some popcorn, whatever.
And the ending makes sense in context of the character's journey and the resolution. But the twist at the end, without spoiling it, I did almost shout at the screen, you did this, the most bloody obvious storytelling cliche you could have done, and you went there.
Yes, pretty much. I will say
the trickster, good effects with like when his eyes are bleeding and when he's merging with Michael at one point. It is a very, very good practical effects, but he is just a knockoff Freddy Krueger.
I will say this just because this is what I was like back then, and I kind of still am now a little bit, which is that I kind of had a crush on the Kimberly character played by Amy Hargreaves. I thought that I felt just like Michael because I was like, yeah, she's cute, she's nice, and it's a bit like the movie that came out around the same sort of time, Hocus Pocus, the Disney movie. Kind of had a thing for Vanessa Shaw, who played the love interest in that too. I don't know if you can relate to that with those characters.
No comment.
Sorry, I just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, I think Amy Hargreaves is very attractive as Kimberly, and I kind of think the Kimberly character, you don't really know much about her because her and Michael just live next door. They go to the same school, but they're not in the same classes. But he has a thing for her, and we aren't sure if she likes him, although there's subtle hints here and there, isn't there? But is that real or is it not?
And will you even care by the end of it? No, that's not fair. That's not fair.
No. I like this movie a lot. It was one of those ones that when it came out on DVD in the UK, I bought it straight away. Surprisingly, it doesn't have a Blu-ray release in the UK. You can get it in America. It's one I'm actually planning on buying at some point when it gets a bit more affordable. But I like the film. I've seen it many times. It was one of my favourites as a kid growing up and stuff. So it means a lot to me. I mean, if this would have gone in Matt's pick, I would have potentially put it in there because I like it. But like I say, it's not a perfect movie. It is kind of boring in places. It does drag here and there.
It drags in the middle.
Yeah.
You must kill again. I won't do it. Yes, you will.
And regarding the horror, as a gore fan myself, there's not a lot of killings in this movie.
No. There's a lot of John Connor standing in his bedroom looking terrified or traumatised or oh no, this is really happening.
But he has a cool bedroom with his posters.
It is a cool bedroom, I'll give you that.
With his posters and his computer games, with the video phone call with telephone call for you, master. A bit like a Frankenstein servant kind of character, like a Renfield or whatever. But no, it's yes, it's dated, but I like the film. I don't know how you feel.
Like I said, I'm not going to trash it for the sake of trashing it. It's a good concept and it is sold by the actors involved, but I'm not going to remember this in a week's time.
Fair enough. So I suppose that's BRAINSCAN. Yeah.
Is that the trickster? No, it's not.
I don't want to play with this now. I don't want to have to kill someone now.
I don't want you to kill someone now, so let's see what the Twister Spinner has got for us.
Yes, exactly. Let's see what it comes up with next. It's landed on action.
Oh!
So we've gone from horror to action. So let's see what it's picked for action. We're doing an absolute classic here, a cult classic movie from 1988. We are doing Midnight Run, which stars Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin.
That is a classic, isn't it? I've heard about this.
Oh, you've never seen it before?
No, I'll tell you how I've heard about it next time, but it is like, I actually have wanted to check this out and see what the fuss is about for some time, so thank you. This is actually a cult classic.
Good. So be sure to check that video out. So Thank you everybody for watching today. What did you think of BRAINSCAN? Is it a movie that you saw when you were a young kid or a teenager or whatever? Was it one of those movies that you'd watch on a Saturday night, party night with your friends? Tell us, we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to check out the other shows we got on the channel. We've got my solo videos and unboxing videos that are coming up soon. We've got At the Movies with Andrew if you want to find out all the latest releases. So yeah, be sure to message us on all the social media sites, and thanks everybody, all the best. And what would you like to say to close out?
A memorable quote from this movie. Game over.
Yes, that's probably right.
I've got one. Come with me if you want to live.
Wrong movie. That's you doing John Connor again.
I can't help stop thinking about what other things Edward Furlong has done that are not this movie. I'm sorry.
I'll have to IMDb it, see how many times he played a character called John Connor. Thank you.
It might be twice soon.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.